It's important.
And some of these other forms of energy, well, you do require those critical minerals.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Betweenplays Stock Market Strategies. And with us today from EBL Consultants, we have Eric Lemieux. Eric, comment ça va? How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. Thank you. Good
It's so
afternoon. Bonjour.
it's great. It's great. Like so great having you today. And of course, Friday. We're look. I don't know. I'm a little bit dressed up here. I think they got the Habs fever going on. Montreal playing Tampa tonight, Friday night. I hope we kick some butt. I got some players on Tampa's team that irritated the crap out of me. Like I guess when Claude Lemieux irritated there, like Sabourin and Gold. Anyways, we need to do some work tonight. That's for sure.
But there's good fever, so let's keep our
Yeah,
hands crossed for the Canadians and go Habs go.
yeah, absolutely. And just talking about the fever, I just want to put one thing on. I saw it today. It's pretty cool just to show you the fever of Montreal. I thought this was really cute. I think I wanted to share this around with everybody. Take 2 seconds at a time. This is little kids of primary school, all in Habs jerseys, and what they're shouting is "Go Habs, go!" And they made the CH over there.
Good for them.
Yeah, here. Yeah, so they went a little crazy. So we got some Montreal fever now. Go Habs, go! It's about time. I think we need it. Um, I'm fully invested, as you can see.
Yeah, well, good for you. And yes, I think we need it. As you said, we're not going through easy times here in Quebec, to my personal sort of reflection with all the potholes and you know,
Wow.
like it or not, the economy is going not too bad, but I mean, this stories about, Bécancour and projects being put on hold and just seems that everything is not well managed. And so if we can have a little bit of happiness with the Habs, why not?
Oh,
So go Habs,
exactly,
go.
exactly. In the Roman times when things weren't going so well, they used the Colosseum, right?
Yeah, the
so,
games.
so whatever.
Yeah.
Go Habs, go.
But
All right.
let's not forget we have a tradition and you go off other places from Montreal, the other stadiums, and there's always Montreal Canadiens fans, even though if they have
Oh,
no relationship with Montreal.
oh yeah.
So I mean, it is the top, think, franchise team in the world
Oh
in any
yeah.
sports.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it's like well, I was going to say the Real Madrid, the
Oh
Juventus,
yeah. Oh yeah. It's comparable. Absolutely. Oh
Barcelona,
yeah. 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 Yeah.
Canadien Montréal. Anywhere you go on the planet, people recognize it. So
100%.
chapeau to our forefathers
Yeah.
and to the
Oh,
great hockey players of Montreal Canadiens.
absolutely. That's right. I agree. I agree. So mining, geopolitics, Appalachian Mountains, and let's start with this one over here. We had some people that had passed. Some.
Well, I was going to make reference to the fact that, we have our old timers, Canadiens, Maurice Richard,
Yeah.
Ken Dryden.
Yeah.
These are icons in Montreal Canadian history and in the Quebec mining industry. Unfortunately, since the beginning of the year, we've lost two great people. I would call them, great professionals. There's Jacques Trottier, who was with the chairman of Amex Exploration, AMX on the venture.
Yeah.
And more recently it was Jean Despatie, who was a Quebec mining veteran.
Yeah.
But just to say that these were two gentlemen that had influence in our mineral exploration industry and our mining industry. And so, I just want to say rest in peace, and we must never forget our past. And so, like the Canadians, glorious past.
Yeah.
And hopefully for Quebec, I think we do have a glorious mining tradition. I know we're going through hard times right now. Unfortunately, even though Quebec has a great public digital base with CGM, which I think everybody I talk to in the world says, hey, this is when they use it and know about it. They say, we can go and get a wealth of public information, geological information.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, as you saw with the recent Fraser Institute rankings, we went down again. And I think it's just the complexity that we've added and the bureaucracy we've added, unfortunately, with the CAC government. And also the fact that, nobody stands up to say, hey, this is misinformation out there and that it's not true that mining necessarily will destroy the environment. And so I think we
No,
need to
but
maybe do a reset to have this prerogative that, we create wealth with what we have, and what we're really well endowed in Quebec is with, natural resources, and we should be proud,
Oh
but we're
yeah,
not proud
absolutely.
of it. And to the contrary, the government seems to want to allocate permission for anybody who's against it, that they have a platform. And I understand social acceptability is very important, but it's not the main ingredient. And acceptability, if it's not based on proper information and on science, well, it's zilch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got to
And
base
I
it
give the
stuff on
example
science.
recently, I saw, I think it's in Nova Scotia, they had this town meeting for the onshore oil and gas.
Yeah,
And I think it's part, the shale gas, but this whole crowd of NIMBY, not in my backyard,
yeah, not in my
were
backyard.
shouting, and they never were able to do the town hall meeting. And I just find it pathetic when, these people say, oh, they want freedom and they want freedom of expression. But when we come to have public information forums, they come out and they chant. And I call that ecoterrorism.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, ecoterrorism. Yeah. Well,
And
yeah,
that's
of
something that
course.
we had in Quebec, I would say about 12 years ago when we had the BAP for the was it called the Trans Canada Pipeline, or was it the
Oh yeah.
East-West
Oh
gas
yeah.
line?
Yeah, the gas
That
line.
we were having the public audience, and
Yeah.
that never got to fruition because we had these people that were against it, that were very vocal. And unfortunately, the journalists, I don't think they did a good job to really portray what was right and what was wrong. And all we had is this one part of the story, and the Quebec general population was geared to say no to it, or accept that we say no to it. And God knows today, if we had that pipeline, well, Canada would be a powerhouse. We'd be feeding Europe.
Oh yeah.
I just find so many missed occasions, and we went through the decade of sunny ways with Justin Trudeau. Well, it is what it is. So
Yeah.
I'll stop
It
talking.
is
I'll
what
let
well,
you ask
it
questions,
is what
but
it is.
you
That
can see my
yeah,
colors.
I know it is what it is. We'll leave it. We'll
I'm
leave
not
it
wearing
at
red, but if I could, I would be wearing red for the Montreal Canadiens, but also red to voice my madness. Not to say that I'm a comrade, but to say that, hey,
that. But
I
when
got
you
to be
talk,
careful. But you see what I'm getting to.
I know what you're saying. I understand. But when we're talking about let's say oil infrastructure, the pipeline and stuff like that, uh, you know, uh, I'm going to touch up on critical minerals, but I'm going to try to paint a big picture, fly around the world a little bit,
Yeah.
and then correct me if I'm wrong, if it makes any sense, or just tell me, Albert, no, you're flying the seat of your pants. It doesn't make any sense. Like when I look at what's going on in the world, right? We had Maduro in Venezuela. We got him out. They were feeding China oil. Then we had Iran, we had stuff going on there. They're feeding China oil too, right? I mean, look, Strait of Hormuz. Who were the ones that were allowed to pass? China. They were allowed to pass. So, you know, why? Because they were allies. They were getting oil and stuff like that. When you look at that oil tanker in Venezuela that took off and then put on the Russian flags and stuff like that, that was intercepted. There was oil that they were intercepting, right? So when you look at oil and its importance with the petrodollar, its importance on, can you really wage war if you have no oil? You can't. So, and oil is important for everything, right? When I look at the United States and I look at this mindset, they are trying to like grab hold in any way of the oil supply, the
Not
chain.
just domestic, but
Yes,
world.
yes, because even Saudi Arabia, they didn't renew in 2024. They didn't renew the whole petrodollar deal where it's uniquely them. I mean, they took money from China. The yuan they were able to trade, which in 50 years was never seen. So I think that when you look at the direction of trying to grab that supply and stuff like that, it's because they know something is coming. They know something is coming. But if something is coming and we have no minerals, and like when you look across the board, there's a lot of minerals that we just don't have because we're not producing it, we're not getting it out, we're not processing, we're not doing anything, right? It's zero on the scale. And then they said, well, of all of these that are zero on the scale, these ones are critical minerals because they're the ones that build our fighter jets, like titanium, scandium, which strengthens our aluminum. You have the vanadium, you have all niobium, you have all of these different ones, right? That are like these are critical. Well, they're critical for a reason. I think that the critical minerals is going to become even more important as we go on. Am I wrong? Trying to relate this to how they're grabbing the oil, and because you can't go to China and grab their minerals because they're the ones that have control over the minerals. So if that would mean going to war, right, with China if we're going to grab it. So we're not doing that. So I think that the importance of critical minerals is, I think it's more important today, looking at these geopolitics and these maneuvers with oil. I don't know. What do you think? Am I?
Well, I think I kind of agree. I mean, we
Yeah,
have to think about more proximal sourcing.
yeah. Onshoring
And the
or
world the
proximal
world
sourcing?
is changing. I don't know if it's for better,
Yes.
but to get to your initial comment about what's going on in terms of the wars right now in the oil, I think yes, the American sort of imperialism right now is, even though they're the top producer of oil and gas,
Yeah.
um, what's incredible is that yes, they put their finger on Venezuela, which in some ways this big geopolitical fight between the powers to be, maybe Chinese, Russians.
Yeah.
This was a way for the United States to sort of have some certain control. And I don't know if the Iran war is just for that, but yes, there is a stranglehold going right now.
Yeah.
And it's maybe a way of protecting the strength of quotation, the petrodollars.
Yeah. Well.
And, what I find most intriguing is that, we were saying that oil has maybe just 20 to 30 years left.
Yeah.
It's been a long time that there's these proponents saying that oil and gas, we won't need it anymore, and we have to go towards the new renewables, which, I'm not in disagreement, but I didn't like this politics about, we don't need oil and gas, and, it's like shunning it off, being cognizant that, in daily life,
Yeah.
we're
Oil's in
still
everything.
required for the next, I think, 100 years, no matter how you want. Society consumes, and there's some things that we have no choice but are issued from oil and gas,
Yeah.
the hydrocarbons, maybe plastic, maybe certain medicines,
Yeah.
etc. So this utopic sort of thinking that we wouldn't need oil and gas was false.
Yeah.
Now,
It's
saying that doesn't mean that we can't look at other forms of energy. I think that is perfectly fine.
yeah. It's important.
And some of these other forms of energy, well, you do require those critical minerals. And so, yes, to get to your question, maybe we have to sort of foresee that, for one, oil and gas is not done.
Yeah.
And I'm not, a big macro specialist, but yes, I think there's some tug of wars going on.
Yeah.
And this is a big fight, I think, between the American imperialism and the Chinese communism going on. But you're right to say that China controls a lot of the critical minerals, and we maybe should start to wake up. I think some jurisdictions have, but we've got so much to catch up.
Oh yes.
Not only trying to find them, because most of these are industrial minerals, and I think they're relatively not easy to find, but we have sort of a good idea. But it's to be able, first of all, to be able to go and mine them, which will take a lot of changing in terms of the social acceptability. But hopefully, that social acceptability will be massaged in such a way that people realize that, hey, we're better off producing here locally
Yes.
than having it mined in Africa
Well, we
with
can't. No, we can't even do that
substandards,
anyways.
shipped to China.
No.
China transforms it with substandards environmental
Yeah.
elements,
No, it makes no
and
sense.
then it's shipped back to us. When you look at that chain, you say to yourself, that doesn't make environmentally sense.
No, like no, it doesn't make sense
And why
environmentally.
wouldn't we produce it more locally? So that's why I'm saying about local sourcing. I think that should be something that's going to come, a thematic that's going to be more and more interesting to sort of behold and accept.
Yeah.
And
And
I like to say that, if we sort of have some forward thinking, I wouldn't mind one day to be able to foresee that we can go and mine some nickel copper in the Laurentians below Saint Agathe des Monts, for example,
yeah.
um, but have minimum impact on the surface, and that people will say, well, hey, there's a building in the Quartier Industriel that occupies maybe less than one-fourth of a kilometer, but that's just from where the workers go down through ramp or through a shaft,
Oh yeah, that's right.
and we
Yeah.
go mine underground, maybe 1,000 meters underground, and there is no surface impact. I think that's the future.
Yeah, it's crazy when you
And
think about
so
it.
I would like to have people to be open to that and be able to produce. those minerals that we require today or tomorrow locally, that we have a full control of the whole chain of production,
Yep.
I think that makes it win-win. And then you add on the fact that we create jobs over here. And you know what
Exactly.
it is I don't think people realize that modern mining today is you don't necessarily have to send people down at depths with dangerous jobs. My understanding is now it's controlled with joysticks and big screens, and they're all doing this through remote.
Oh yeah, I
It's
believe that.
incredible. And so I think there's this whole change about the whole mining paradigm that people have to be cognizant about and be at least open to it and not go no shell gas, no shell gas, and
Yeah.
just, and I use the term here in Quebec, gaz de schist. And I think I've previously talked about it, but I still have my heart still hurts for that because, it's shell gas. If you translate it, it's
Yeah.
gaz de shale.
Yeah.
And I was educated in the University of Quebec in Quebec City, French. And
Yeah.
in my French dictionary, it was shell. Shell was a rock unit,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and it was gaz de shale. And for whatever reason, they trafficked it that to say schist. And for me, schist is a geological term in French,
Yeah.
but by definition, it cannot have hydrocarbons because it's a rock that's been so much put by pressure and temperature that
Yes.
all the hydrocarbons were ejected, and a schist cannot contain hydrocarbons. So when you
Okay.
say Gauss the schist, it's like saying a black sun. It's an oxymoron.
It's an oxymoron.
And for me, oxymoron, well, the last part of that word is moron. And so I think,
The last
anyways,
part
I
of that
think
word is more.
morons
But
changed the subject and changed the terminology.
yeah.
And merci les Français de la France.
Merci les Français de France. And you know, it was funny because we were talking about this because when I came on, I didn't tell you I was going to be dressed up like this, and you were telling me about when you were studying in school. I thought that I have to bring it up because I think it's so weird. It's like an anomaly or something like that. That you were in school in Quebec and you
Quebec
became a
City.
Quebec Nordiques fan, and
After
then
6 years in Quebec City,
yeah,
every morning listening to the radio,
yes,
I think it was FM 93, and God knows Nordiques were not going very well, and it was
transferred to
constantly, I just remember c'est le temps des dindes.
yeah.
C'est le temps des dindes, des dindes. Anyways, I won't.
Was
It
that
was turkey
Rigaudon?
time
Is that
because they were laughing
Rigaudon?
at the Quebec Nordiques. It was auto
But
flagellation. They were doing themselves. But I sort of got a soft heart for the Nordiques, and I think it was the series back in '91.
okay,
The first series or the second series was between the Montreal Canadiens and the Nordiques.
okay. And was it a
And
lockout? Was it the lockout
no,
era?
I don't
Oh, that
don't
no,
think it was.
that would have been Bettman. That would have been 95, 96. That's
Okay,
when
I
I
think
think
it
they
was
left.
nine. The last time the Habs won the Cups was '92.
94. Oh man. And now you well, look, now I'm gonna look like I'm not a Habs fan. It's just time. You're being
Yeah.
what are
Anyways,
you doing to me? No,
I'll,
but
I'll
I
I'll
you know,
I'll
time
keep
goes
it
by so
general
fast.
where the gist
Well,
of it
listen,
was
I was there. I wasn't throwing anything around, but I was part of the crowd that was there
yeah.
after they
The
won.
gist of it was
Yeah.
it was the series between the Canadians and the Nordiques.
Yeah.
And that summer I was going to work up north on the North Shore, but I was a 1 week between school finishing and going to the work up for the whole summer.
Yeah.
And I went back home to Sherbrooke. I'm a home guy from Sherbrooke,
Yeah.
and I had my friends, my old schoolmates, my old friends from Sherbrooke
Yes.
over to see the first two games. And the Nordiques won the first two games of that series. And
Yeah.
I made my coming out back then. I said, guys, I'm a Nordiques fans now. And so obviously I teased them a lot because we won the first two games.
Yes.
And I was sort of cocky because here I said Nordiques are going to beat the Canadiens, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the Canadiens won, beat the
Yeah.
Nordiques. And that's the year that they continued up and they won the Stanley Cup. So that summer, I was up in the boonies working in the fly camp,
Okay.
and we were being supplied by a float boat.
Okay.
And there's this big box that comes under the name of Eric Lemieux. And I had a lawyer friend in Montreal
Oh
who had
boy.
photocopied all the newspaper clippings of the Montreal Canadiens winning the Stanley Cup.
Oh, that
So
is
I ate my
good.
pride off there. But
That was good. But
say,
then when the Nordiques like when they went to Colorado, the weird thing is that you went to school in Colorado. Colorado.
yeah, well, subsequently, yes,
That's
I
odd.
ultimately went to do another master's degree in mineral economics, and I
Yeah.
went to do it at the Carl School of Mines. And just prior to that, the Nordiques were sold to to Denver, to the Colorado,
You got
which
to
became the
follow them
Colorado
there.
Avalanche. And so I sort of followed them. But yeah, I was able to see a few matches
Yeah, that's cool.
in Denver, and it was nice to see
Well, you
Well,
had like
obviously they had
that
built
was
a
a
great team,
spectacular
and I
team
think it
back
was
then.
2 years later they won the Stanley Cup. So
Yeah,
just to
that
show
was
you
a
that,
spectacular team. Joe
yeah,
Sakic, you had everybody. I mean, but
exactly.
yeah, but so lost opportunities. You know, maybe Quebec. This works out into lost opportunities. Quebec lost to Quebec Nordiques, and look at what the run was after that in Colorado with all those players. I mean, those a lot of those names are just it's insane. So lost
Well,
op.
it takes time to
Yeah.
build a good team, and I think people have to. You can either, sometimes you can buy it, but I appreciate when you're able to start from the base and build a solid foundations. Which I think, if I look at the Montreal Canadiens, I think there's
Oh yeah.
great players out there that
Oh
are
yeah.
young,
Oh yeah.
building a friendship, building a team, building a family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have, I can't predict what's going to happen in this series, but I mean, I hope for the best.
Yeah.
But all I can say is that, if they do lose or we don't win the Stanley Cup, all I can say with confidence is à la prochaine.
Oh yeah.
And
Big time there.
that next à la prochaine
Yeah.
next time is
Yeah.
sooner than probably
Oh
the
yeah. They're
Toronto
all
Maple
super
Leafs.
young. They're
Yeah.
all super, super young. I mean, look, once you start getting to our ages, you consider them kids almost.
But I repeat, it's
You-
going to be sooner than the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't want to,
Oh my God.
knock
We had Killian
on
Charles here that
Toronto.
chirped Toronto on my last video. Now you just chirped Toronto. Okay, look, that is hilarious. Okay, we'll segue
Yeah.
into you know what, Hard Rock Lithium. Okay, let's go into that because now we got two people chirping Toronto. So look, um, you know, I don't know if you want to we'll touch up here a little bit. Like, Hard Rock Lithium in Quebec is insane. It seems to be in abundance. The numbers, the grades seem to be amazing, actually. And if we look at, like, we got Brunswick exploration, we got Q2, of course we have PMET, and even Brunswick just recently 52.2 million tons. The grades on some of them is incredible. Anatakau, you're hitting at 1.5 or one. You got some really beautiful grades there as well. Everything is open in all directions. Mirage as well. It's like when you look at Q2, you look at PMET, you look at all these guys in all this area. It's almost like as if God just said, "Okay, the pressure or whatever it took to make that, we have it in abundance."
Well, I mean, there's people who had worked on the James Bay back in well, even before the 1970s, but it was certain people had said that, the next Abitibi is the James Bay. And maybe not for gold, but time will tell. But it was always sort of a basket of commodities potential. And it was always sort of this perception that, there wasn't that many mines in James Bay, but it was just a question of time. And it's interesting to see that, thank God we had the infrastructure of Hydro-Quebec, and hats off to the people in
Yeah,
the 1970s and 60s to have had that. Well, to have had I have to be careful the terms I use, but the
of course.
will and the cajones to say, hey, we're going to go and build the
Yeah,
hydroelectric potential up north because that's where the
absolutely.
rivers were, and that's where was our geographically, that's where our strength was. But that building of that hydroelectric infrastructure permitted to have access to the territory. And in the James Bay, well, that's I think 30, 40 years later, we're sort of reaping the profits of that capacity to be able to go and be able to explore over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes, it's a basket of different commodities. And
Yeah,
so I think in the last 10 years, what has arose is that lithium is something that is significant in the James Bay.
yeah,
And what I
and
find incredible is that, you can be the last one to get out of the gate, but you might ultimately finish the first one. And I think Q2 Metals Cisco property sort of indicates that. And this is something that, in industrial minerals, for example, in spodumene and lithium,
yeah.
that's something that sometimes happens, is that it's not necessarily discovering the deposit that's the most complicated, because these are industrial minerals are relatively, I shouldn't say they're easy to find or that prevalent, but they are in the scope of things. Diamonds and gold are more fickle, if you want.
Okay,
But long story short is, I think, yes, we can safely say that the James Bay is emerging as a premier lithium hard rock district
exactly. And
province.
that's pretty amazing. And
Well, I think it's great for the province of Quebec, and
absolutely.
I think I just wish the Quebec government was. I think they are cognizant of that, but I just think for the last 3 years, I just wish they would have woke up to say, hey, it's nice to have all these factories to do the batteries and transformation,
Yeah.
but we also have to put emphasis on the primary source in our mines, potential mines. And it's nice to say that they're there. And then, you mentioned PMET, um, Brunswick,
Brunswick. Yeah.
Cisco,
Cisco. Yeah.
Nemaska.
Yeah. Oh,
But I
Namaska.
just,
Well, that was huge
well,
back in the day.
I take the case of Nemaska,
Yeah.
as I was saying earlier on. I mean, they were probably the first ones out of the gate,
Yeah.
but
They
they won't
were. I
necessarily
would think
finish
so.
first. And I think you have to put in considerations that we've had a lot more now discoveries, and it seems that every new discovery is even better than the other one. So it's
That's
hard to say which one will turn out to be, the prime
yeah.
deposit. But I'd
Absolutely.
like to see the government be proactive to say that if we do have a lithium hard rock district,
Yeah.
well, let's make sure that we succeed. And then this is where I would put also some monies to better improve the infrastructure.
Well, Quebec government and the Canadian government need to wake up a little bit when it comes to this stuff because
Well,
it
there was a
seems like
time
it's
that
just a
Quebec
lot of
government,
talk, but
yeah, but
no.
I mean, we did have the Plan A, if you recall, back in 2012.
Yeah.
And I think that was something rather good. Unfortunately, I'm not too sure that the Plan A lived up to the expectations. And, to go to Kuujjuaq 6, 7 years later and still don't have any cell coverage. I'm not saying that it's important, but I still
Yeah.
think that it was part of the first inklings of the Plan A,
Yeah.
and they didn't necessarily succeed that. So I think there was a lot of yapping and talking
Yeah.
and a lot of promises, but
Well,
ultimately, I don't think they
we
did
don't have
much,
time for that
unfortunately.
anymore, Eric. I really don't think we have time for that. When you look at I look at that oil stuff, it to me it signifies something bigger. It there's I don't think that they would have went in like if this would have been 2002 when after 9/11 everybody was like, calling Bush and saying George Bush Jr. and saying, oh my God, we support you, we got your back, we'll open up everything that we have in order to help you. We're not at those times anymore. And what we're seeing today is a protectionism kind of stance on the United States side, and they're not to be taken lightly. I mean, like some of those weapons that I heard. I don't know if you heard about that, but when some of these Venezuelans soldiers were saying, "Man, it was like a sound beam or something. We're just we're hurling, throwing up, blood's coming out our nose. We can't get off the ground. Like
Well, I mean, I think
that's crazy stuff.
there's some very advanced
Photonics or
technologies that
something?
we're not too much aware of.
Sonics?
Might be
Sonic
some,
sonic
maybe
weapons. Sonic weapons.
sonic, laser.
It's
This
insane.
is maybe sci-fi,
Well, but
but
I'm sure they have this kind of
I think
stuff. I
so,
mean, come
indeed.
on. I mean, kids in school are playing with lasers. I mean, I'm sure that they can work on the densities and stuff like that. Like, well, anyways, they do have one on top of the Ford, I think, the carrier that's got a laser weapon on there. Like, so
Highly likely.
we're just in a whole other world. But I find that they're in a protection kind of mode right now, and I
But
think
what
if
I
you're
find
when
interesting,
you're
if I
yeah
can interrupt you,
yeah no
Albert, is
go
that I mean these arms, these weapons, these
oh
armament systems,
yeah
they require critical minerals, and
yeah
so and it just we're getting
hats
back
off
to the
to you
mining
because that's
aspect of
exactly
things.
poof that was hard but yeah
Nice, nice, shiny.
oh yeah it was very shiny it hurt my
Good
eyes
for you.
it hurt my
And
eyes
I'm to the contrary. I've got a jungle going on over here in front of my head.
eventually I'll probably have some hair one day
Uh,
probably go to Turkey
Anyways, just
on one
getting
of those
back to
planes that
my
have critical
reflection about
minerals
the
to
use of these weapons is
yeah
that, it may be silver, may be titanium. There's these required specific specialized minerals that they need. And if they're throwing missiles like they're doing right now, to me, it's like, look we're going to be really needing more of these. And so I think for the Canadian perspective,
yeah
one of the strengths that we might be able to sort of more vocalize and be proud of is saying, hey, we do have, we're very well endowed and that we should be proud of our natural resources and not necessarily
absolutely
say that we're going to sell it directly to the states, but
no
put ourselves in a position of strength and be
yeah
proud to say that, hey, we can mine these,
yes
we can transform them, and then we can also have different clients all over the world,
yeah and we
not
should
just the
be able
United
to
States.
refine it as
And then
well
between provinces also accept that we can maybe have more vectors between east and west
yeah we
and not
should
only north south. I know the population is more concentrated on the south part of Canada,
yeah
but I think we have to be more proud as Canadians to be able to say, hey, I prefer to buy stuff from Alberta. I prefer to buy stuff from Saskatchewan.
Absolutely.
And let's try to develop. We did develop the railway. Well, let's
Yes,
try to improve that.
absolutely. Absolutely. And when you're looking at there was something that I was looking at when we're talking about some lost opportunities. But let's I want to go to something actually different. Let's go to somewhere different. Uh, a long time ago, when we were at the Puma exploration, that's where I met you.
Yeah.
And you were educating myself and a coworker of mine that we came onto the site, Mike, and you were showing us like the veins or in certain things, and you were teaching. It was really cool, by the way. And you were talking about the Appalachian Mountains and the structure and how it moves on and it goes into the Atlantic Ocean and stuff. And I was like, what? And you were like, and it goes right through into Ireland, and it's the same system. And that was something that you taught me that I didn't know. That wow, that's insane. I was thinking about Greenland, in this, because the way it looks like it goes. I mean, can Greenland have some of the geological kind of formations, let's say, as Canada has?
Yes, I think when you look at the geodynamics of our planet Earth,
Mm,
if I really quickly simplify, is that yes, the Appalachians do cross into, well, first of all, they start in the South Georgia, go through the Carolinas, upper state New York, Vermont, Maine,
it's huge.
southern Quebec, Canton de l'Est, la Gaspésie, New Brunswick, Newfoundland. And then you do cross, well, they don't cross. What happens is that this was a whole chain of mountain, what we call the Appalachians Caledonian Mountains.
Okay.
And then when the Atlantic opened up, the Apatis, uh, it was separated.
Okay.
And the Atlantic Ocean is one of the more recent oceans. So basically, as I told you earlier on, you just have to see it as a bit like a chain of mountains, a pencil, and then
Yes.
you just snap the pencil
Yeah.
and you go back with both pieces on both sides. And so
Yes.
you have the same sort of rocks of the same age. And in the middle, you have this more recent Atlantic Ocean. And
Wow.
part of Eastern Greenland, in my understanding, is part of that Appalachian structure. So
Wow.
you have this Appalachians in North America, and then when it gets to Europe, it's more called the Caledonians. But you have that in Ireland, you have that in Scotland, and then you also have that in Norway and Sweden and parts of Eastern Greenland. So this is fascinating, but it shows you that yes, if when you make some new discoveries in one area of the Appalachians, you say to yourself, oh, maybe we could have these sort of same geological process that happened might be a Scottish man that will say, "Hey, there's this new type of deposit and I would like to say in the Quebec Appalachians, but unfortunately, we're not exploring here in Quebec."
Mm, yeah.
We can maybe touch on that, but if I give the example of New Brunswick, where Puma on the
Yeah.
venture are
PUMA. Yeah.
very active,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're finding some new stuff, new geological models, gold endowment, and the province seems to be quite proactive. At least the last time I went last September, I was able to meet, I think it was the Suminis. There was an engineer there, government engineer. There was no, a geologist. And I had recently somebody make a comment that, in other provinces, and exactly, it was somebody in Ontario saying that, we can see the people from the Ontario government on the field. And I'm not too sure we have a lot of Quebec people in the government, higher up government, that go on the field. I'm most unfortunate.
Mm,
So I'm starting to scratch my head more and more now, saying to myself, we've been missing a lot of vocations here in Quebec. But anyways, getting back to the Appalachians,
yeah.
it's kind of remarkable that we have this orogeny, this Appalachian structure that dates about, I would say, let's round it up, 500 million years ago to 300 million years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a very diverse rock package. And when you talk about diversity, well, it means different geological systems, and you can find that different geological endowment.
So Greenland also
Might be
becomes very
volcanic
important.
rocks, VMS. You might have some structural deformation, don't gold deposit, epithermal, mesothermal. You might have some rare earths because you had these different intrusions and stuff like that. So very geological, very well endowed. And what I find fascinating is that there's new discoveries going on in other provinces and other jurisdictions. And gosh, I'd like to apply it here in Quebec. And I'd like to also apply the fact that Quebec, the Eastern Townships of Quebec back in the late 1900s, was the premier copper district in North America, or at least in Canada.
Okay.
And, to go back and maybe look at stuff and to be able to explore with new technologies, new geological models, I would say this would be a great opportunity. But we're not doing much here in the Quebec Appalachians, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. So this is like lost opportunities, right?
Lost opportunities again.
Lost opportunities. And
Yeah.
I think you were mentioning before the show started, what were we saying here? I'm just going to go back a little bit over here. So we were talking about, oh yeah, so yeah, exactly it. So the whole copper thing. I'm what I
Well,
what I
what's
what I
most
find
interesting is that, it was back in I think it was 1870 and
1870s.
1880s and 1890s.
Yeah,
This was in the North Hatley area, the Sherbrooke area. You had the Eustis mine, the Albert mine, um, some other. I mean, and obviously there's in the scope of things today, they're small, but it just shows that there was whole communities that lived out of this mining, and also because they were mining these massive sulfide volcanics, there was also sulfur, so they actually even had a sulfur industry, and these ramifications that when you mine for a certain commodity, you can also have these byproducts.
yeah,
And God knows today that, with what's going on in Iran, and I don't want to,
yeah,
jump
yeah.
here and there, but I did understand that, there's whole impact in terms of fertilizers and also sulfuric acid. And so there's all these ramifications that happen in different part of the economy. But God, if you're able to more source locally, you'd be more protected, more not camouflaged, but insulated to these sort of
Absolutely insulated
incidents.
is good. Yeah.
And I think in a national policy, I'd like to see more of this sort of idea that we want to protect ourselves more from outside events that are going on.
Oh, completely agree. And
And I think the Americans, or at least I don't want to necessarily be pro-American per se, but I think they start to understand that it was nice, this sort of global thing,
yeah,
la mondialisation,
yeah,
but there was some inconvenience. And like anything else, when you want to make change, when you swing the pendulum too much, it's very violent. I don't think
yeah,
necessarily good, but
yeah.
sometimes ultimately we'll be able to find a balance and maybe a proper equilibrium. That's my optimism.
Well, my mentor used to always say that. My mentor, when I got into the police force, and he used to always say that. The pendulum swung too far to the side. It's normal. It happens, and then eventually it recalibrates. It could take some years, but it'll happen.
Yep.
And what's really interesting also is when we talk about rocks. Okay, I think that people, I'm starting to understand a heck of a lot more about the importance of what Canada has. So I was for titanium. I think that China pretty much rules what comes out of there. But I mean, they don't really. It's like 20%. They're able to recover 20% or something like that. It's not that great. The stuff that deal a lot of deleterious material. Then when you look at like the United States, because they have a lot of sand, a lot of stuff that's sand and it moves around and it's not very easy to go and grab the stuff. You're gonna end up with a lot of deleterious material as well, and then and clay and stuff like that. When you look at Canada,
And I think the same thing for phosphate, if I'm not mistaken.
it's like all rock, like right phosphate, right first phosphate, right. You have
Yeah.
igneous rock, right, which is not everywhere.
It's not everywhere, but there's as to mention about,
Yeah.
sands.
Yeah.
Well, with hard rocks, there's quality,
Yes,
and
that's yeah,
that's not to be
exactly.
forgotten. Sometimes it's easier to produce the alluvial sands, but sometimes there's an environmental prerogative that you have to take into account.
Well,
And
there's a
sometimes, as
lot
you
of
said,
leftover material in
yes, and there's
most cases.
delicious elements in the
Yeah,
sedimentary types of
yeah,
deposits. And
which
so that's
causes
why the
more
hard
harm to the
rocks
planet.
That's why the hard rock deposit, which Quebec is very well endowed, are
Yeah,
usually very, very have a premium because they don't have any contaminants, and that's something that is a strength, and it should be a
this,
calling card, and it should be actually,
exactly. That's my point. It should be a calling card. It's a
exactly.
strength because you know
Yeah.
what? Listen, I mean, like, look, I've been doing this now for a few years. Okay, I'm starting to understand. Right? I have people like you showing me the ropes. But the thing
Yep.
is that it's not taking me that long to understand that when we're looking at clay, when we're looking at salt brines, when we're looking at sands, when we're looking at wow, recovery in the other end of the world, God knows what the hell it is, and they're getting all a ton of deleterious material all inside there. And then when you look at the hard rock that Canada's got, the hard rock scandium, the hard rock titanium, the hard rock, oh God, like it's a phosphate, like first phosphate, a lithium, Q2, Cisco, Brunswick Exploration, PMET. When you look at all of this stuff, the critical minerals, vanadium, scandium, all hard rock, things that don't happen around the world anywhere else. It is a calling card. Like wake up. We would have less deleterious material, all right, and we'd have the quality that would be there,
Yep.
and we it would be better for the planet instead of mining all this stuff and doing like a strip ratio of like 2 to 1, only one part good, two is going, you know,
It's
being
more like
blown
10
in
to
the
1.
wind or whatever the hell.
Yep.
Like, hello. So I think that Quebec is onto something really good, but you're right. I think the governments need to wake up.
Well, there's a lot of
They need to wake up.
there's a lot of good talk, but
Yeah.
sometimes, as we say in French, faut que les bottines suivent les babines. Uh,
Yeah. So get butts in,
and so
Sweetie Babin. Okay,
yeah,
I get it. I understand. Yeah,
yeah.
I got it. I got it. I got it.
And
So
I understand, when the PQ came into power and there was this a lot of momentum about, um, making sure that we don't only mine in Quebec, but we do the transformation, the third or fourth transformation. And I don't disagree with that. And I remember Martin Ouellet, the publicity PQ had about this big mining truck, and then they were dumping the minerals, and then basically saying that, after that, this is all the little pebble that's left for the Quebec society, which, was false information, was false governmental policy or propaganda.
yeah,
Uh, but when you only put emphasis on the transformation, there's risks because you don't necessarily have the expertise. Even though, and I give the example of Bécancour for the batteries, I have no issues to try to have these big factories for building batteries.
yeah.
But what we did is we just put the focus only on that. And now we know what's going on is everything is sort of put on standstill. I was there last weekend and it's kind of sad. You've got these three big, huge factories that are not finished. And this begets the question also, why build three big mega things at the same time? You can just imagine we sort of foresaw this maybe being done, but the ministère des Transports du Québec et de la Mobilité durable,
Yeah.
well, they didn't build the proper road infrastructure. So then, you had all these traffic jams and you had these incidents and so you had the trucks and the cars and blah blah blah. Anyways, long story short,
Oh my God.
you can just imagine also all this inflation that they had.
Yeah,
The workers, well, they had to have housing, and so it was just, excuse me the term, a shit show.
yeah,
And so I think it can explain a lot of the cost overruns.
yeah.
But we find ourselves now with the situation that we wanted to build these transformation factories,
Hmm.
and they're not done. But the hard rock mining and lithium in the James Bay, it's advancing. But on the infrastructure side of things, on the Quebec policy, governmental things, I don't think there's much that has been thought or built or done. And I would
Okay.
have maybe a thought to say to myself, well, maybe it's time to think about having a deep port on the James Bay side of things, and maybe either that or a rail system from Matagami to further up north. I know there's been some studies to do that, but I would have said, the iron is hot. It's time to do it. We've
Yeah,
got a very well endowed district that's emerging, hard rock for lithium. There might be other commodities there too. Let's build the infrastructure.
yeah,
And if in the beginning we have to be the breadbasket for other industries outside of Quebec, why not? They'll take
yeah.
the risk. And maybe one thing of planning is to say, hey, if we're going to be providing you with the lithium from Quebec, well, let's make sure that you give us a royalty, a little royalty, but let's transfer this royalty to the whole Quebec population. So
Mm.
it would have been nice at the end of the year or at the beginning of 2026 if everything would have been planned correctly. And if, let's say, for example, Volkswagen had its battery plant in Ontario and that they were being sourced by a mine in the James Bay, every Quebec citizen could have had a $200 check as a royalty payment.
Crazy.
Maybe doing arm waving, but I think this is
Yeah,
a way of
I know
saying,
what
look
you're
at
saying.
our strengths, our natural resources. Let's be proactive. Let's be proud of it. but let's make damn sure that we're doing something
Oh
about it.
yeah,
It
well,
takes a lot of passion and conviction to go out and explore.
yeah,
But I always say, we are at the beginning of that timing belt, if you want,
yeah,
this sourcing of our commodities. And if you don't, if you can't grow it, you've got to mine it. That's, I think, is one of the
yeah,
first paradigms that you have to say in
yeah, yeah,
humanity.
absolutely.
And then you've got to try to find these deposits. And so, hats off to the explorers out there. It
Yes,
takes passion and it takes will and it takes
definitely takes
patience.
will and passion.
And
Anyways, on
and
that note,
for
are you?
sure.
Do you have anything you want to end on, or do you have something?
No, well, I think I've said that a few
Okay,
times this week and beginning of last week.
okay,
It's hockey time season,
yep,
and so I'll just say go Habs go.
yep. Go Habs, go.
And for the rest, it was nice chatting,
Yeah, it was nice chatting.
and
Great having you, Eric, on the show. It's always a lot
it's
of
a
fun.
pleasure for me.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure for me because it's always a lot of fun with you, Eric. Thanks a lot,
And
and I'm gonna see you soon.
well, hopefully so.
Yes.
And you guys, everybody, take care. And it's
Yep.
always a pleasure to discuss. And we touch a lot of big subjects. But I
It's
just
fun.
want to say about the Iran war. I mean, I was against it. I find it sad. I just hope
Well,
that in 2026 that we'll find a little bit of humanity in that. I always say times fixes things. Let's hopefully that will be the case, but let's not be too pessimistic and let's hopefully that we'll be able to have the situation resolved eventually. But it just refocuses on the idea that let's try to secure local supply and let's try to make ourselves stronger on a local level first, and then after that we can radiate and
yeah, onshoring.
better
Yeah,
better reasons to say sunny ways.
absolutely. All right. See you, Eric.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Bye.